What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Miniature Mayhem. My name's Chris. In today's video we're going to be painting Captain Imelda Braskov. If you do find this tutorial useful, I'd massively appreciate if you smash that thumbs up button down below, hit the subscribe button if you haven't already, and leave me a comment down below of what you thought of this paint scheme. Without further ado, let's get straight into the video. As with all of the other Cursed City heroes, I've given this model a base coat of black and then a zenithal highlight of white using the airbrush. Starting from the inside of the model and working our way out, I'm applying a base coat of LEADBELCHER to all of the steel plates on the armour. You don't have to be too tidy here, as obviously this is the first thing we're going to paint. Don't forget the undersides of the shoulder pads, hidden by the fur. As you can see, I've already painted the marble basing on this model. If you do want to know how to do this, I'll leave a link up above to the Bloodborne video, which I cover this completely. Using Agrax Earthshade, I'm just giving the armour an all-over wash. I would normally use a little bit of gloss mix on this, but because she's been fighting a long campaign in the Cursed City, I wanted to keep it nice and dirty. Using Vallejo Brassy Brass, just going to pick out some of the small details, the hilt of the weapon and some of the sigils to Sigmar. With that now complete, I'm going to take some watered down Stormhost Silver and apply this in little scratches and nicks all over the armour. Again, I don't want to create a solid highlight anywhere, just to add to that kind of effect that she's been fighting for a long time. With that now complete, the main bulk of the armour is now done. For the leather, gauntlets, greaves and trousers, I've just applied a base coat of Corvus black. Now focusing on the upper edges, using a highlight of Skaven Black Dinge, just picking out where the light would catch on the leather. Take your time here and work your way all the way around the model. Now using Dawnstone, I'm applying a final edge highlight to all these leather portions. Be careful here, take your time and just apply as fine an edge highlight as you can. For all of the cloth, I've applied an all-over base coat of Calidor Sky. Use a couple of thin layers here and get a nice smooth coat, as we're going to blend this later on. Don't forget to base coat the little ribbon on her arm. And now, using a mix of Cantor Blue and Medium, I'm going to apply glaze into the recesses of the cloak. It's down to you how smooth you want the transition here. The more medium you apply, the more layers you'll need, but the smoother the transition will be. And likewise, if you want a quick transition like I've done here, 1 or 2 layers will do. You just want a sort of 2 to 3 mix of paint to medium. Going back to our base coat of Calidor Sky, I'm just tidying up the areas of the cloak where I slipped with the medium. Again, just take your time here and you can redefine all the edges and anywhere that you don't want there to be shadow that you may have covered. For the highlight colour, I've added a small amount of Lothern Blue into the Calidor Sky mix, and again a small amount of medium so that as it dries it creates a nice transition. Just work your way along all the edges and focus on the raised areas. For the leather strapping and the eagle on Imelda's back, I'm just using a base coat of MOURNFANG brown. Again, apply a couple of thin coats so we don't lose any detail in the fur. With that now complete, I'm applying another base coat of XP88 over the middle portion of the eagle's back. When you do this, work your way around and highlight some of the fur going into the MOURNFANG brown. You don't need to create a transition, but it just makes the effect more natural. And now, to blend those colours together and to shade the leather, I'm going to apply a wash of Agrax Earthshade. Just be careful not to get any of this on the cloak, or it doesn't matter so much if you get it on the black underneath, as it won't show through. And now, as a final highlight for the fur, I've applied an all over dry brush of flayed one flesh. Keep this nice and light just to tie the layers back together. For the beak, I've applied a base coat of RATSKIN flesh. Don't forget to paint the rim just underneath the eyeball. Now apply an all over coat of DEATHCLAW brown to bring that up to a nice bright colour. Using Agrax Earthshade, just pull that into the recesses. We're going to do two separate highlights here on the beak. First we're going to apply a highlight of Pallid Witch Flesh and DEATHCLAW brown mixed together as an edge highlight, and then later we're going to come in with the glaze. So now add some medium into the mix you just used as a highlight, and we're going to use that as a glaze, pulling the paint down towards the tip of the beak. This will give it a nice sharp looking effect. Just take your time here and let each layer dry before you start adding the next layer, and then when you do add the secondary and third layers, make sure you work closer towards the tip. This will give a nice sharp effect. For the pupil on the eagle, I'm applying a base coat of AVERLAND Sunset. For the eye, just apply a vertical line of CORVUS black. I applied a second layer of AVERLAND Sunset just to make it pop a little bit more, as it turned out to be quite dull. For Imelda's face, I apply a base coat of CADIAN FLESHTONE. I'm applying this really thin as the female features are quite delicate on this model, so I apply a few thin layers. Now using a mix of BUGMANS Glow and Medium, roughly a 4:1, we're going to apply this all over as a wash, which will apply a really nice gradual fade onto Imelda's face. Make sure you push this around into all of the recessed areas and don't let it gather anywhere too heavily. We just want to make sure we have some around the eye sockets, around the nose and underneath the cheekbones. This is a really easy way to create a nice subtle shading, especially for female faces. As you can see here, that's kind of naturally shaded without even applying highlights. Adding a small amount of Kislev flesh into CADIAN FLESHTONE, just going to apply a light highlight, literally just to the bridge of the nose and across the cheekbones and the top lip. With that now complete, I'm just applying a small amount of Arctic White into the pupils. As you get into position to paint the eye like I am here, just before you go to make the stroke, drag the brush lightly across the back of your thumb to make sure the tip of the brush is wet, and you'll get it first time. Using CORVUS black, I'm just carefully applying some pupils. Adding a small amount of Screamer Pink into the base colour for the flesh, we can create a nice warm lip colour. For her hair, I applied a base coat of Xandri Dust. I'm going to paint her blonde the same as the box art. Add some Screaming Skull into the base coat and work your way around the hair, picking out the individual strands. For a final highlight, I'm just using pure Screaming Skull to pick out the crown of the hair. And with that, Captain Imelda Braskov is now complete. So there you go, thank you so much for watching. If you did find this tutorial useful, don't forget to smash that like button, hit subscribe if you haven't already, share us with a friend who you think might also find this useful, and as always, catch you in the next one.